Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another Front Office Rocks Ask Laura, Dear Laura podcast, interview, social media post, wherever you're listening to or watching. We're super glad that you're here. I am Laura, the founder of Front Office Rocks, and I have lots of customers and followers who have lots of questions. And so we started this Dear Laura to go through these questions and really break them down and try to give some tips and tricks that you can use in your practice today. So without further ado, let me answer the two questions that I have for this week. Dear Laura, from your experience, what are your basics on how to build a productive schedule? Wow, that's a big question because we actually have a mastery course at Front Office Rocks specifically on how to build a productive schedule. So I'm going to have to kind of skirt over the top of it to explain it, just the wave, what do they call it? Just the wave tops, right? Just the top of it to really answer that question. But if you want to dig deep, which is what I recommend that you actually get the full training on this. So basics on productive schedule. First of all, understanding what is a productive schedule, understanding what does that look like? Because many times team members and dentists think productive means busy. I have to be busy. If I'm busy, I'm productive. And that is false. There are a lot of offices that are busy, but they're not productive. So productive actually means that you're hitting goals. Productive actually means that you're achieving the numbers that you've set out for your practice. Productive actually means that you're doing things throughout the day that will help you towards a goal, which leads me to the next thing. What is your goal? So many offices don't have a goal, or maybe the dentist has the goal in their head and the office manager may know it, but the team doesn't know it, or the goal doesn't make any sense. It's so unachievable. It's so high or it's so low that it's not motivating. It's not, we're not trying to reach it. So the next part of understanding how to build a productive schedule is knowing what you're trying to achieve. And there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, we don't know if we're productive if we don't know what the goal is, right? It's kind of like playing a game. If we didn't have a score, how would you know you're winning at it? The second reason for needing a goal is because we need to break it down to daily and hourly tasks that our team members do to try to hit that goal. So, for example, if our goal is $60,000 a month, then we need to break it down to how many days are we open. Then we need to divide it by that many days. Then we need to divide it down by how many hours we have in the day. And then we have our hourly goal of what am I trying to schedule to? What am I trying to achieve to hit that monthly goal? So many times the monthly goal is so not understandable, too big, too like, how do I know on the 7th of the month if I'm on track for the monthly goal or not if I don't break it down? So the next part is really understanding what the goal is. Then the next part, which is really what we get into in our mastery course, is to train the team on how to build the schedule now to hit that goal. And it's important that everybody on your team understands how to build the concept of building a productive schedule. And then that your scheduler, the person who's ultimately responsible for your schedule, knows inside and out how to build a productive schedule. Because it's many times, I relate it to like building a puzzle, right? When you go at building a puzzle, those who are listening who are my puzzle people, we all have systems to building a puzzle. Mine is I empty everything out and I put all of the straight pieces in one pile. And then I put all the colors in order. And then I build the outside of the puzzle. Then I start building the different colors of the puzzle. And before you know it, I have a complete puzzle. That's what the schedule is like. And your scheduler should understand that. Your scheduler should know, okay, here's the framework of the puzzle. And then here's how I'm going to start piecing the puzzle together. Now, I'm not going to get into the specifics here, but every appointment fits into a certain category, primary, secondary, or tertiary. Your scheduler should know that. Your scheduler should know how many primary appointments, which are your larger dollar value appointments, do I need every day to hit that goal? And then the team should understand the process or the overview of how to build that schedule to support the scheduler, okay? Again, this is like, I could go on, I have gone on for hours and hours teaching this. And this is something that I highly recommend if your scheduler's never been trained in how to do a productive schedule, that your scheduler get trained in our mastery course and that your whole team understand the concept, okay? And then fully understanding that your team plays a part in this. You play a part in this. And so setting a productive schedule and putting it out there now means we have to follow through. And that's really what I see the breakdown happening in dental offices is you go to a scheduling training or you take a scheduling course and then you come back and then just start putting everybody in the schedule wherever it fits. You've got to stick to the process to make it work. Many people have heard about productive scheduling, understand the concept, but actually don't follow through on it. And that is really the last step of the whole plan here, is to make sure you follow through and you do the things in your office that you've learned to build your schedule that's productive. But I will tell you, a productive schedule is well worth it, because a productive schedule means a happy doctor, means paying bills and getting your goals met, and it means having a schedule that you run, not one that runs you. So many offices run around as a result of the schedule. You know, they walk in the morning and they look at the schedule and are like, man, today's going to suck. And then they let it run them all day long, right? And this feeds into your culture, your energy, your goals, all of that. So if you actually get good at a productive schedule and running a schedule well, everything about your practice will improve. All right. So I highly recommend it. And those, again, are the basics for running a productive schedule. So thank you for that. If you need more help with that, reach out to us at Front Office Rocks. All right. Number 2, dear Laura, what is the right, they put this in quotes, right amount of communication? Sometimes I feel like we say too much and other times not enough. I'm wondering, I don't know who sent this in, if it's a dentist or an office manager, but it'd be interesting to know, because I do say, this is just a side squirrel note, that dentists, many times, if you think we can read your mind, many times dentists will say something outside of the office and I ask, did you tell your team members that? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, how are your team members supposed to know if you don't tell them? So for dentists, if you think you communicate enough, communicate more. Because the more you can tell your team as the leader, the better you're going to be in having your team follow you. Anyway, that was a side note. So what is the right amount of communication? The answer to that is communication that makes a difference, communication that gets heard, communication that gets understood, communication that has a purpose. And I'm thinking about various examples here: communication with patients, communication with each other, communication around the water cooler, communication in the breaks. Like, the one thing we do a lot of in the dental office is talk, right? The one thing we do a lot of as a dental team is talk. The one thing that we don't have enough of in the dental office is time. So what is the right amount of communication? We have to first look at what kind of communication are we using? What kind of communication? There's verbal and there's written, there's nonverbal. So really looking at all of the communication in the office and saying, well, what is vital that needs to be communicated verbally? What could be written? What could be done in a meeting? What could be done in an email to the patient? What could be done in a text? And really first kind of breaking down, where are we spending all of our time and energy talking about things? Then the second thing, once we've determined what actually could be written or done in a meeting, is the stuff that's left, which is important. Communicating on a daily basis typically has to do with today's schedule, today's patients, today's issues, today's everything, right? Then what is the purpose behind that communication? What is important about that communication? What needs to be said? And this is kind of hard because many people are not super great at communicating the right amount. Many people either communicate too much or too little. So communication is definitely a training thing. It's something that I would definitely sit down with your team and say, okay, let's talk about, for certain scenarios, what is the right amount of communication? When you're telling me, for example, a patient's late, I need to know as the doctor, the patient's late, when they're going to be here and how we're going to handle it. I don't need to know the drama behind why they're late. I don't need to know the 16 things about all of the stuff that's happened with the patient before today. I need to know these 3 pieces of data. So helping your team understand, in this scenario, here's what I need to know, right? When we're scheduling a patient, when they're leaving the appointment, what is the purpose behind it? The purpose is to make sure we give them good customer service, make sure we handle all of the issues that we need to while they're there, and make sure they get rescheduled for their next appointment. So what is the right amount of communication for that? The right amount of communication for that is one that actually is effective, that the patient feels like they got taken care of. We handle all the issues and the patient gets scheduled. Every patient's different. One patient, that might be 3 sentences and you're done and they're out. Another patient, it might be a little bit more. But if you're sitting there talking for 20 minutes about the patient's trip to Spain and their 6 kids and their golf outing, and you've done everything else that's necessary, that's too much communication. Same with our team members, between team members. If I'm, I don't know, we're in the huddle in the morning and we're talking about today's schedule and we start talking about last night and what everybody did, and what are you having for breakfast and where are we ordering lunch today and what's the plan for happy hour, and too much communication. We're in the huddle. The purpose of the huddle is to talk about today's schedule and all of the things that have to do with the huddle. So again, it's a matter of looking at the type of communication, the reason, the purpose of the communication, and then helping our team members understand what is the right amount for that purpose, right? If we're sitting around the kitchen and we're all on a lunch break, I want to hear about what you did for happy hour last night. I want to hear about what you're doing tonight. That's fine. You're on lunch. If I'm in the back sterilizing instruments and turning over rooms, I might be able to say hi and bye and, how's your day going, and a little fast, funny joke, but I don't want to hear, or we shouldn't be spending 15 minutes talking about what you did last night. So it's really starting to break down the flow of the office, to break down the systems. I called it an assembly line, to look at the assembly line and say, okay, what is the purpose of this communication? Does it need to happen right now? Does it need to be verbal? Is it important enough to do it now? Or can we put it on can we write a note or have a meeting about it later? And then how much communication is needed to get the purpose across, to communicate what is needed so that the other person can take that communication and run with it, right? One last point, because you bring it up here too, is how much is too little, or when we're not communicating enough. Again, if I have to circle around, or somebody has to circle around to go get more information because I didn't get enough to do the thing that I'm supposed to be doing or go to the next step, then that's not enough communication, right? So it's a balance of really understanding, and I hate to bring it up again, but I say it almost in every Dear Laura, it's the why. What's the why behind this type of communication? And then I want to make sure I tailor the amount of information needed to get that across to the other person. So again, my master's degree is in communication. I spent hundreds of hours learning about communication, and your team and you probably have not. Most people have not. So taking any courses, following Front Office Rocks, having meetings when you're not with patients, and actually get your team together and breaking down every type of scenario in your practice and saying, okay, let's talk about communication here. How much is too much? How much is too little? But not assuming that they're going to know, because most people are not trained in this area. Most people, this is a skill, this is a value that could be perfect or can help your practice, but you got to invest in your team to help them with that. So that is the right amount of communication. And I feel like at this point, I've talked enough. I've got my point across. You have the resources to come to us if you need it. So I thank you for that question, that communication. And on that note, this is the end of this, Dear Laura. We are so excited that you guys are sending in questions, that you are following all of the different ways that we are putting this out there, and we would love to hear more from you. So if you haven't already, or you have some additional ones, please put them in the comments, send us an email, reach out to us, whatever way you are connecting with us. And again, if you need anything else, we are over at Front Office Rocks. So thank you, everyone, and have an amazing day.